Hey everybody, it's great to see you today. Today is December 30th, and this is Living Power, your online Bible study where we're walking through the Bible in a year. I said it a little bit differently that time. We are in the book of Revelation, and I can't believe it that we only have 2 days left. We have today and tomorrow, and for those of you that have been with me from the very beginning, we've done it. We've walked through the Bible in a year's time. I'm amazed that of what we've accomplished this year. And we have a lot to talk about yet because we are studying Revelation, and we are chronologically just about at the end of the 7-year tribulation point. We're almost to the point where Jesus comes again. And tomorrow in the reading, we're actually going to read about the second coming. So today, I want you to see the contrast in the reading as to what is happening on earth versus what is actually happening in heaven. On earth, we see men cursing God, they're blaspheming God, men are worshiping the Antichrist, they are unrepentant. But in heaven, we see God is being praised, and all of this is going to happen right before, just prior to Jesus' second coming. Now, the 7 bowl judgments that we read about today are all part of the 7th seal. And what I've been trying to explain to you, during the study of Revelation, I'm going to say it this way. We have the 7 seals, then the 7 trumpets, then the 7 bowls. All of the bowl judgments are umbrellaed in the 7th trumpet judgment. And all of the trumpet judgments fall under the 7th seal. So we have a very orderly rollout, if you will. We know God is a God of order. We have an orderly rollout of God's judgment upon the world. And you might have asked, are the 7 bowl judgments that we read about today just duplicates? Are they repeats of some of the trumpet judgments? Because we see some of the same stuff happening. We see something happening to the sea. We see the fresh water turning into blood. We read about that in the trumpet judgments. Are they the same thing? And here's how we can understand that. No, they're not exactly the same. It's the same type of plagues coming upon the earth, but they're happening again. And we can understand that these are chronological. The seals, then come the trumpets, then come the bowl judgments. So the bowl judgments are more intense than before. Yes, we're reading about something similar, but these judgments are much, much more intense, and they're happening in rapid succession, these bowl judgments. So they're happening faster, and they're much more intense. They are on the entire earth, whereas some of the trumpet judgments may be affected 1/3 of the sea or 1/3 of the trees or something like that. This is on everything that's remaining. For instance, everything in the sea died this time under the bowl judgment, where before 1/3 of the ships were destroyed. So I just wanted you to catch that difference. Things are more intense. They're happening much quicker, rapid succession. We are at the very end of the tribulation period. The 7 bowl judgments, people get malignant sores on them. Now, is it all people? No. These are the people that have taken the mark of the beast. These are unrepentant, lost people. They will not be saved. We will not see them in heaven. They have taken the mark of the beast, and they will get sores on them. Is it the Jews, the 144,000 that have been sealed? No, they have been sealed. Those 144,000 are living on the earth. They're Jewish people. They've been sealed. They're remaining faithful to the Lord. They are not getting these malignant sores. And the believers, let's say you and I are still living, just for example, at this time on the earth, we have not taken the mark. We would not be getting these malignant sores either. The sea, this is the 2nd bowl judgment. Everything in the sea is dead. Now this is amazing. And then fresh water, all of it has turned to blood. And it gave us in the reading today, why is this judgment coming upon the earth? It's blood for blood. There have been a lot of Christians martyred, and God is just kind of giving them tit for tat here. Number 4, the sun gets really, really hot, and it burns people's skin. So, we hear about global warming. I don't think, and I don't know enough to speak on the global warming that people talk about in the news today. Is it the same thing? All I know is this is a literal warming where God heats up. He turns up the sun to high, and the radiation and the heat is so hot that it actually burns people's skin. Number 5, darkness. Darkness comes over the earth. So now he's going to turn down the sun, turn down the stars. And then number 6, this was pretty interesting. He's going to dry up the river Euphrates so that the armies of the world will actually come across. That's the borderline, the borderland between Israel and Asia. Armies are going to actually be able to come in to the War of Armageddon, and they're going to come that way. They're going to cross the dry Euphrates. Check out Isaiah 11:15 for more background on that one. And then the 7th bowl judgment. There's going to be an earthquake that has never been like it before. Cities are going to crumble. The islands are going to disappear into the sea, and the mountains are actually going to be leveled. This is in Revelation 16:18-20. This is a return to Pangea, Pangea, and I've given you a link on the blog today so that you can go and look at this cool picture of Pangea. Scientists, it's not just academic scholars, biblical scholars, but scientists believe that the earth millions of years ago, there was actually one continent, and then God shifted the continents to be in the place where they exist today so that the seas would be in between the continents. But if you look at this picture that I've given you, the continents actually they're like a puzzle, and they actually piece together. And if you've never heard about this concept, it's really quite interesting. So go ahead and check out that link that I've given you today. But we do believe that the earth, the curse on the earth, will be removed during the millennial period. When Jesus comes again, either right preceding or he's going to do it, this is really the last event before he comes, because we believe that Pangea will be restored, and all the land mass on the earth will be returned to one continent. It will all be reconnected again, and that these are just some of the specific instances in 1618 where God has revealed what's going to actually happen. If you're living on the earth at that time, it is going to be way weird to have all of these things happen. But you'll know when this happens that the Great Tribulation is almost over. So on the earth, what's happening versus in heaven, what's happening? On the earth, the devil has amassed these world armies to prevent Jesus from coming again and taking over his throne. The devil knows that Jerusalem is going to be the capital. That's going to be Jesus' capital, and that's where he has amassed all these world armies. We know that at this point, the devil himself has indwelt the Antichrist, this one world ruler, and has probably convinced, one of the commentaries said that the Antichrist has probably convinced the nations of the world to rebel somehow, and maybe it's not. Maybe they're rebelling against Antichrist. there's a lot of speculation as to what's actually going on in this the war to end all wars. Who's rebelling against who? Who's fighting against who? But we do know that the devil has an agenda. He wants worship, and he wants to prevent, like he could, he wants to prevent Jesus from coming back and taking over his rightful place as King of Kings and Lord of Lords. In heaven, Jesus is preparing to come. So how do we understand this judgment on all the people? I know this reading is difficult for some of you, to read these plagues and these terrible things that are going to come on the earth, but we can understand it this way. This judgment, remember, God is full of grace and mercy. We love reading about those passages, but as much as he is full of grace and mercy, he is equally as full of righteous judgment. So the judgment that he is giving upon the world is reserved for the unrepentant, because they are, and he knows that they have chosen this. Remember, we have free will 100%. God knows that they have chosen this and will be eternally unrepentant. So this is righteous judgment on those that have chosen for their own free will to be without God. They have rejected God. Now, in chapter 17, we read about Babylon. What happens to Babylon? So, if this were a movie, we would have switched scenes now, and we're learning about a different part of the movie that's going on. We're learning about Babylon. Chapter 17 is a summary of the entire tribulation period, if you will, and it just gives us kind of more background information as to what the world is up to, what's going on. So we understand Babylon to mean the source of pagan religion that has oppressed Israel and has oppressed the church for all of these many centuries. Chapter 17 is not chronological. Again, it's like switching scenes in a movie. It's giving us some background information. Babylon is known as, satanic religion, the program of the satanic religion, and it's also known as the political rule not under Jesus Christ. So Jesus Christ is the only one that has the right to rule, and we can see Babylon as the world religion, the world economic system that is not under Jesus, that does not uphold his principles, his truth, etc. We learn a couple of things. In 17:6, we learn that, and we knew this, but it just reiterates that many will be martyred, believers will be martyred during the tribulation period. In 17:12, we learn a little bit more about the 10 kings. Remember in Daniel's vision that we learned that there would be 10 nations that come under and give the Antichrist their loyalty. We don't know if America's in there. We don't see anything about America actually in the Bible, but there will be 10 nations that come under the Antichrist and give him their loyalty. In 17:14, we learned that these 10 rulers, these 10 nations, will go with the Antichrist willingly to battle against the Lamb. So we know whose side those 10 nations are on. And in 17:14, we get a little glimpse as to where we will be during this time. And it says, we will return with Jesus. So at some point before this moment, we are raptured because we get to come back. When Jesus comes back, he comes on, I shouldn't tell you it's in tomorrow's reading, he comes on the white horse, but we will be following him. And if you want to see where that is, it's in Revelation 17:14. So at some point, he captures us, and we're going to talk about this. He raptures us, and we're going to come back with him. We're going to talk a little bit more about that tomorrow. 17:17, underline, look, read again in your Bible. This is the whole point to what we're reading today. This, we have to understand what's happening right now is part of God's sovereign plan to bring the world to judgment. And it says here, for God has put a plan into their minds, a plan that will carry out his purposes. Who is he talking about? The 10 rulers that come that go with the Antichrist at the Battle of Armageddon, God has put it in their mind to do that, to accomplish His purpose. So we see here God's sovereignty even till the very end. The devil may think he's in control, but the Lord is allowing these things to happen to accomplish His very own purpose. Chapter 18 is the fall of Babylon, and it represents the state of the world at the end of the tribulation period. And some scholars believe Babylon is the literal city of Babylon that it's talking about. Some scholars believe it could represent the city of Rome. However, let's look at the big picture here. The big picture in chapter 18 is that it states that the economic climate in the latter days will be in turmoil. What we see here is commercialization in judgment. Let me explain further. Judgment here is coming upon pride, excess, gluttony, and luxurious living, for the world has deceived people into thinking that profit and getting rich is the most important thing, to the harm of the poor and giving and taking care of the widow and the orphan. Remember all of those concepts that we read about in the Old Testament, Jesus taught. Again, in the New, here we're seeing judgment coming upon commercialism, but commercialism from a standpoint of excess and deceiving people into thinking that profit is the most important thing. And what we see here is the devil's religious and economic empires have fallen. The economic global empire has fallen, and we are in economic crisis in the world. And really, all the devil has left at this point is his army. And Jesus is going to deal with that in the reading tomorrow. So here's the application for today. The world has always chosen and sought to glorify itself. But we Christians seek always to glorify God. So as you go about your day today, consider this. Are you living a life seeking to glorify yourself? And if you are, perhaps you're just trapped in the world's teaching. But the Bible always teaches us, and the Holy Spirit would have us to glorify Jesus and to glorify the Father. So that's the question for today. Is your life seeking to glorify yourself, or do you live every moment and everything that you do is seeking to glorify the Father? That's the question for today. Well, tomorrow we have one more day, and we're going to wrap all of this up tomorrow. And tomorrow, Jesus comes again, in the reading anyway, and it'll be a day you won't want to miss. Blessings to you. Until tomorrow. Shalom.